Here we go. We're hitting the button. All right, the internet machines are being turned on for another episode of Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnick. I'm one of the bid nerds here that's going to talk to you today. We do this every day at 9 o'clock with my partner, Michael Deeb, who I am excited to introduce and see if he is here. There he is. Michael Deeb, how are you this morning?
Good morning, JP. The week has gone by fast. Did we skip a day at the very beginning? It just was like we flew this week.
This week does seem like it's been rapido, no doubt about it.
Totes.
Totes, right? I mean, that's probably what the kids said like 2 generations ago. I don't think I have any sense of what the kids actually say now, just what
that's
they
right.
would make fun of me for thinking they say.
Yeah, that's because the kids don't talk to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Need a little cup of coffee this morning because it has been a long week. It's the end of the week. It's Friday. If you're just tuning into this and you're going, why are these two numbskulls talking to us? Bid Nerds, what is Bid Nerds? Bid Nerds is a channel where we, a couple of would-be, wannabe experts who really don't know anything about cars but think we do. We know a lot of useless stuff, but we're big fans of Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. They're the top two auction websites where you can buy an enthusiast 80s, 90s, really cool, obscure, neat cars on the internet. And a lot of us, if you're not familiar with those websites, they are addictive. You can go on there and you start watching, and they just suck you in. The auctions are very dramatic and exciting. If you're into that sort of thing,
car porn.
It is car porn, exactly. And
Totally.
Michael Deeb and I, we do have years of experience in and around the business as car enthusiasts ourselves. And we watched these sites and we thought, you know what? We can lend our would-be expertise to people and comment on some of the auctions that are going on and give you every day at 9 o'clock our top 5 picks from cars in bids. So with nothing else, I'm going to say let's get to the cars because who cares?
Yeah, we're like family. We want you to tune in, but you know better than to listen to us. So there it goes. So let's jump right in. Let's go to Cars and Bids, where you have selected a 1989 Toyota pickup. This is an interesting build from way back in '89 in that it combines a 4x4 drivetrain, an extra cab, a V6, and a manual transmission. Essentially, this ticks all the cool off-road, go anywhere. If you had to have one car to survive the apocalypse, this is your vehicle. Plus, it's a Toyota. As we know, this is the Taliban car of choice. This car is listed as a one-owner car out of Winston, Oregon, with 144,000 miles on it. It has recently treated to some interesting modifications of grades. Tinted windows, aftermarket wheels and tires. And it looks like they sprayed a blue bed liner all over the exterior of the bodywork of this car. You will have to explain to me why somebody would do that to an automobile. But anyway, there you go. 4x4, 140,000 miles. Honestly, this thing is probably just broken in. It could probably go another 150,000 miles without having to split the cases or rebuild too much of the car. That being said, I think this thing is hideous, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, despite the really groovy equipment. Why on earth did you choose this car?
Oh, boy. You know, there is a reason why I chose this car because a lot of times people think that our picks of the day are necessarily the cars that we think are cars that you should buy. And that's not necessarily the case.
No.
I think we like to sometimes point out vehicles that are just wrong in so many ways, and this is one of them. This car offends me because I am such a fan of the SR5 Toyota, that generation, the 89 to 94 SR5 Toyota pickup truck. I recently sold one, and it broke my heart when I did it. It was my father's truck. We referred to it as the Yoda, and I bought it for him back in, I want to say it was like 94, 95 or whatever.
Wow.
And it, you know, when we bought it, it was kind of beat up.
JP, your dad had that car for 25 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it didn't look that much different from the way it did when we sold it. I mean, when we bought it, it was a work truck. Someone had it on a farm. It was a 4x4. It was a single cab. It wasn't didn't have the extra cab like this one does. And it was a bench seat, and it has the 22 RE motor. But
a four-banger, right?
The four-banger, exactly. Yeah. But that truck was original. Right. You know, it had the original faded paint. It had original dents. The dash was cracked. This stupid thing. I mean, I'm just so angry looking at this thing. I mean, what were?
It's the stripper of. It's the stripper of 4x4s. I mean, come on, man.
It really is. This is like the epitome of no taste. I mean, old and patinaed and busted is so much better than putting a velvet dashboard cover and some steering wheel thing that they got from, O'Reilly's.
Granddaughter. Yeah, granddaughter.
What the hell is going on with this shift knob? I mean, bro.
This car needs a fuzzy steering wheel cover, and then it would belong to some 75-year-old 2-pack-a-day lounge singer in North Vegas.
It's just an atrocity. And here's the thing: this truck, the body actually looks halfway decent. I was struggling with ours, the one that I inherited because my father did pass. I was struggling what to do, and I was thinking, gosh, maybe it would be cool to kind of restore it and make it really nice. But that just didn't seem like I didn't have the space, and there's just a million different reasons why I sadly let it go. I sold it to a couple of young men who were on their way back to Guatemala. These two boys bought this thing. Just real quick, I sold it. I advertised it very inexpensively. Had a million people respond to the ad. I met the first two people, and they were complete assholes. They tried to get me to lower the price. The price was already ridiculously low. And then I met the third guy who was the kids. They barely spoke English. They spoke Spanish. Yeah. And they're like, we're trying to get to Guatemala. They showed me their passports and everything. And I'm like, well, how much money you got? And they pulled out of their pockets like wads of cash. These guys had probably been landscaping or doing whatever for however long it took them to save it up. And it was like, that's all they had. I'm like, and it was, I don't know, probably a third less than I was selling it for. And again, I was selling it cheap. And I was like, guys, take it and love it and get where you need to go with this thing because it will do it. So anyways, long story, I sold it, and man, that truck.
Listen, if that car goes home to Guatemala, that family, and I mean the extended family, they will use that car until the car does not exist. The wheels will fall off, and they'll put them back on and keep driving it. They'll drive it beyond the wheels falling off. I promise you that car will live forever down there.
I feel like that, like in the spirit of my father, it's like, all right, this thing will live forever like him. This truck, however, this darn Toyota that they bastardized. Well, okay, on a serious note, all right, so now, it's got 10 bids. It's at $5,400. This thing has 144,000 miles on it. I was at Barrett-Jackson 2 years ago and saw a couple of these in line, ready to go on the block, and I wasn't signed up. I was just there as a spectator, and I ran over to sign up because I was like, oh, man, maybe I can get a deal on these trucks. I was thinking they both went for $30,000.
Right.
I was like, what? Yeah. So this truck, I think, had the potential, had he painted it a normal person color.
Or an OEM Toyota color.
Yeah, whatever the OEM color was, just do your best. Even if it's not perfect, do that. Don't do the wetsuit neoprene seat covers. Just go with something basic. Basic, man. I mean, he actually has a good set of wheels and tires on it. I mean,
absolutely. But you realize that paint job is bed liner. I wasn't joking about that.
Yeah.
It's written in that. It's bed liner. I've never heard of such an atrocity. Like that
look at these. Look at that. What is that, dude?
It's
what
garbage.
are you thinking? This is garbage, right?
Let's move off this.
What's
car.
your bid?
What's your bid? I think there's $1,900 left in this car because of the equipment, not because of the color. $7,500 is my bid.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, it's getting
$2,100.
It's on one of these. He's definitely going to get more for it here than he would put it on Craigslist or something like that.
That's true.
So yeah, I'm going to say maybe he gets another grand out of it and say $6,500.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
This thing. and I don't like the person that has it. Sorry, there it is.
Okay.
I'm impugning his. You're going right after his character. Okay.
Yeah, tune in every day while JP and I throw shade on bad cars.
Oh man, right? Whew.
Yeah, boy, yeah, necessity.
Bad Toyota owner. Bad Toyota owner.
Seriously. Okay, here we go. Let's jump over to Bring a Trailer for a second. There's another interesting car you chose, and I'm curious to see why you chose this car. This is a 1993 Volkswagen Fox GL Wolfsburg Edition, which, at least in more contemporary Volkswagen terms, means that it was actually built in Germany, while Volkswagen as a conglomerate builds cars in several factories throughout Europe and South America. This particular car has cloth interior, 69,000 original miles, and comes with a 1.8-liter engine mounted to a 5-speed transmission. JP, do you know the auto term, a brass hat? You know
I do not know the brass hat. I'm very curious.
So this car is brass. In other words, Volkswagen of North America offered gave this car to a Volkswagen of North America employee. And this car has traded hands, I think, once between two Volkswagen employees. So this car, in other words, was a brass hat until it was recently offered from former Volkswagen employee here in 2020. So normally when the car is a brass hat, they have a bunch of cars used for shows or for demonstration drives, and then they give one to an employee as a demo for like a year or two. And then those cars are typically gifted as used cars to dealerships that have been doing a job. In other words, they're extra allocation of cars, and they get sold as used cars through the dealer network. This one has remained in the employee's hands. In other words, he kept the car long term, and it is now being offered publicly and for the first time outside of the Volkswagen family. I must say, I remember fondly the Volkswagen Fox that was a two-door. I thought that the shape of the boxy design was reminiscent. In other words, for me, as in the late 80s, as a teenager, I thought it was a Benz Maserati by turbo by design shape. But I must admit, I do not remember a four-door GL Wolfsburg Edition car. It's foreign to me. I remember the what's the other car they used to have? Had the Scro, you know?
They had the what?
The all-wheel drive. They had a Volkswagen.
Oh, the Dasher.
I thought it was bigger, but
Quantum. They had the Quantum.
Yeah, Quantum.
They had the Quantum. Yeah, which was basically an Audi 5000 kind of wannabe platform thing. Yeah.
Right, and then it came with the Synchro all-wheel drive drivetrain. But I do not remember a four-door Fox. This is a very interesting car to me. I was fond of Volkswagen back in the day. My uncle worked for the company. So in the 80s, I was acutely aware of most of what Volkswagen was doing, and a huge fan, obviously, of the Scirocco and the GTI. But I don't remember this car. So this is a great grab for obscurity. It's got to be Radwood, got to be some more to Radwood for a car this unusual. By today's standards, you just don't see them.
Yeah, so I do have a personal connection to these cars. So when I got married, my wife didn't have she had a car, but it broke down very quickly. She had this piece of junk Mustang. So I bought her one of these. I bought her, and it was like a super cheap one though. I mean, we literally paid $300 for the car, and she wound up driving it for years. I mean, it was like it just kept going and going and going.
If I married you and you bought me this, I'd annul the wedding.
I know, right? Well, she had a cool motorcycle and stuff like that, and now she has a Porsche, so it worked out for her.
Rochelle is rad, and I could see her rocking one of these. What color was it?
Hers was like that Mars red, so it was kind of like it was basically orange. Yeah,
and she was blonde back then, like
blonde, it depended on the week. Kind of her hair color changed quite a bit.
I could see Rochelle totally rocking a Mars red. Volkswagen,
and it was a two-door, like you were talking.
Oh
about.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Look at this engine bay. So one thing, if you know Volkswagens, particularly A1s or A2s, or almost any Volkswagen with a four-cylinder, the engine is always horizontal. This one is this one is longitudinal. Yeah, longitudinal.
Right.
I don't know.
Is it a front-wheel drive, JP?
It is a front-wheel drive, so it's odd that the engine was put in like this. The reason why this engine exists, it was an industrial engine, so it was used in all kinds of other applications. Like they ran pumps for I don't know, dams and stuff like that. I mean, this was an industrial engine, so they had a transmission that made sense to plop it in there, and I think they just had a whole lot of them. This was an incredibly inexpensive car. There was nothing to it. This one, oddly, does have air conditioning, which is kind of exciting. Man, I mean, they're just insanely reliable cars.
Jumping back on what you were just saying, you have to understand, in Germany and a lot of the neighboring countries around Germany, Volkswagen is the domestic car of choice. So they make a lot of lower grade, affordable cars for pedestrian and commercial application. Mm-hmm. So if you needed a pickup or a light truck for your business, you could get one or a fleet of Volkswagens that probably use this engine for days. Yeah. Which is really interesting. So you have to understand, this motor will probably mass produce in hundreds of thousands annually for a lot of different applications of Volkswagen service that we never saw in North America. So that's a great catch there.
So, and you want to talk about minimalism. If you're a person who's into minimalism, how much more minimal do you get than this? I mean, this is...
It's a simple 3-box design, and it's actually easy on the eyes. It kind of looks like a plumper Jetta from the silhouette standpoint, and it's on 13-inch steel wheels with plastic hubcaps. Imagine putting 15-inch alloy wheels on this car. How much more attractive this car might look. It's not going to be fast, but it would certainly have some cool curb appeal.
This car, where's this being sold out of? It's up in the north, I think, right? Traverse City, Michigan. Ooh.
Traverse City, Michigan. Yeah, and it's at $3,000 with 2.5 hours to go on Bring a Trailer. The good news is you probably could drive this car home.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
And a great car for your kid to learn how to have a stick on and go to school, college, whatever. It's probably a decent commuter. I bet it gets gas mileage, and it's got a ton of life left. Again, it only has 69,000 original miles, which is amazing. So if it's not rusted, being a mission, this would be a cool car.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something to note. If you look under the driver's side door, there is one photo where you see the underside sill of the actual door, not the sill, but the door itself does have some a little bit of rust where probably the water drainage got plugged up or something like that. But the rest of it looks pretty solid. That is one of those things you always got to look for when you're looking at cars from the Midwest or East Coast. Yeah. And that is a challenge when you're buying a car in an auction site like Cars and Biz or Bring a Trailer.
Yeah. So all right. For $6,000 and completely busted out in 3 years, the car only costs you $2,000 a year. It's still a really good deal.
Michael D, what's your bid?
That being said, I don't think it's going to make $6,000. I put this car at $4,800.
$4,800. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. It doesn't look like it's got a whole lot of action going on it. I'm going to be paying attention to this car. I want it, but at the same time, I wouldn't want to spend more than $4,000 for it. I think it gets to 45.
45?
Yeah. As much as I love this car, I'm going to be soft on it.
You bid over. Yeah, 10 bids. It's only got 362 watchers and 8,000 views. This is one of the least looked at cars on Bring a Trailer that you and I have talked about since we started doing the show.
If it were a wagon, it would go for twice to 3 times as much. They did make a 2-door wagon. Yeah,
that's a great point. And that you and I would want that car. Yeah. That'd be really cool.
I have a very good friend up in Seattle who has 2 of them. He built them for one for him and one for his son, and they're rally style too. So we could talk about that some other time. All right, let's move on to some more cars. What's the next car?
Okay, jumping over to Bring a Trailer, we're going to go back a little further in time. This is a 1988 M3. I have to start out by saying that this car is in Canada. It's in Port Moody, British Columbia. The car only has 53,000 miles, and it's important to note that it is miles, not kilometers. So I would suggest that this was a U.S. car that had at some point been imported to Canada, and now the car is offered out of British Columbia, and it should be very easy to bring this car in. Not inexpensive, but very easy because the car is already in miles. So you don't have to do an odometer switch, and it's eligible for the 25-year exemption. So this car can be brought in and put on a U.S. title, and if the smog equipment's there, it can probably be registered in any of the 50 states or the lower 48, including California. E30 M3s, JP, are just about the holy grail, and they are really starting to jump in value. I think this car could prove to be a great value add to a collection for two reasons. One, the car is in Canada, and you'll have to bring it in yourself. It's not already here. And two, while the Carfax is clean, the listing notes that there was early on in the car's life a small fender bender and that they have done the repair work. So if those two things don't scare you away, you could get what I would argue is about $125,000 to $140,000 M3 for probably under 90, maybe even under $80,000. And it's just an incredible car in, I think it's Alpine White is the name of the color, right? Yeah, repaint in Alpine White, which is a gorgeous color. It has a back dash, does have silver leather and silver door cards, 5-speed get-drag transmission. These things are just, they're baller, they're badass, they're super fun to drive, and I think they're a pretty decent place to put your money, even this one. So there you go.
Boy, I mean, talk about blue chip. You don't get much better than this. I am a little concerned about the Sparco pedal covers again, kind of like that Toyota that we looked at. That's like, you know, you look at cars like this, you're like, oh my God, everything's perfect. And you see one glaring, like, you know, Shucks upgrade or O'Reilly upgrade. You're like, what? What happened? You know, how did you get there? This picture, so explain to me what's going on here. Is this the same car?
Yeah, so that must be where they had the bang up early in its life. And
I mean, that looks like that doesn't look like an early picture though. That looks like a recent picture. That looks
there's not a lot on the
the description.
They just say that it hit somebody, and they had to replace the plastic fender and the quarter. They new hood and new front fender.
I mean, that looks like the glass is out, the seats are out, like
it said it was repainted in Alpine White. So I wonder if they had the accident, didn't do a great job, and then somebody repainted the whole car. But they don't mention that in the listing, and that's probably why this car with just 50,000 miles is at $40,000 with 3 hours to go. Depending on where the reserve is set, you might be able to steal this car. I would just love to have one of these. I wouldn't give a shit if it's repainted. It'd just be nice to have one that you didn't have to spend $150,000 on, you know?
Well, that's the big trick, right? If you can get into this car and have it look like the $200,000 version and actually be able to drive it like it's meant to, that's the sweet spot. So, I don't know. What's your bid? Oh, what's your bid?
It's British Columbia. So I think I still think this car is going to bring like $88,000. I just think there's a ton of value for the money with the low miles and a fresh repaint. I don't think it's going to be a problem getting it in. There are plenty of them here in the U.S., but if it's in this condition, it's almost twice as much money. So
with just over 3 hours to go, you think that this thing is going to be double where it's sitting at now?
I do.
80?
Yeah, there's only two bids, so I could be way, way, way wrong. But I think that's what the car is worth.
Yeah.
So it might not make it to that, but I think that's what the car is worth. I think this car is worth $80,000 to $90,000, despite the repaint and all that other stuff. I mean, again, go replicate it. Go find me another $50,000 one that's under $125,000. They don't exist.
Love the car. I am just really concerned about this whole rebuild nonsense and how it's been described in this ad, and the fact that it's over the border and you have a dealer that says they make it really easy, but there's a lot of buts here, a lot of stories. I'm going to say this thing 55.
55.
I think it's a great value if you get it for that. But
that's probably where this auction goes. The question is, JP, at 55, do you think it sells? And to me, if it makes it to 75 or 80, I think it sells. But at 55, which I think is a great take, I kind of think that the reserve might be right in there, somewhere in that $60,000 range.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We'll have to wait and see.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next car. What are we talking about?
All right, so listen, we don't really like to push for Canadian cars because it's a lot of effort, and JP and I have noticed recently that some of the sellers don't really want to help you with that process. That being said, our friends up at Silver Arrow Cars in Blaine, Washington, are offering a car that sits on a Canadian title, but it'll be sold you a clean Washington metal. It is a no reserve, 37,000 mile, 1992 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. This is the real RS. This is not the RS America. This is the European, rest of the world car. There are a litany of really trick parts on these cars, and I'll try to go through them with you as I'm looking at the car. First of all, the cup wheels are not the standard aluminum cup wheels. These are magnesium wheels made by a different company, but they have almost the exact same casting. They're just made from a different material. So they're hollow spoke magnesium wheels. A set of those wheels is probably worth 20 grand. The brakes are an upgrade. The shifting linkage is an upgrade. The clutch is a sport clutch matted to a single mass lightweight flywheel, which lets this car rev. The tuning of the motor is a little bit different. So instead of 247 horsepower, this makes 260 with a lot more torque, and it comes in down low and revs a little bit higher. I cannot say enough nice things about this car. Much more firmly mounted suspension with upgraded springs and shocks and roll bars. I think the motor mounts are different. They're hard mounted and not rubber mounted. And to top it all off, real RSs have a seam welded chassis, and I think they're all slick roofs, JP. No sunroof, lower center of gravity, much rigidity. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you add up some of all these parts, and I believe these cars might even have built in Weissach, not in Stuttgart, which is racing factory for the car, for Porsche. These cars are amazing. Now, they used to bring a lot of like exotic money. I would say these cars were over 300,000 a few years ago. Two things have happened. The market has softened, and as over the last couple of years, we've hit the 25-year mark with these 92 RSs. And so these cars are regularly being brought into the country, and that has brought the prices well down. So this car has 60,000 kilometers. It sits at 37,000 miles via the translation. It's $175,000 with an hour to go. It'll be on a Washington title. I think this is a $220,000 to $230,000 value.
The glass is thinner too, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the windshield's probably the same, but the rest of the glass is a thinner glass. It's not plexi, but it is glass, and it's a lighter gauge to reduce the weight.
And I assume they all come with LSD?
They all come with limited slip differential, and they all came with these one-piece carbon racing buckets. And again, back in the day, these weren't DOT legal.
No air conditioning either.
Bring in on these, which really.
So no air conditioning. One thing that I always thought was interesting about the European RS versus, say, the American, the RSA, is the fact that the American ones removed the power rear the rear power deck lid. So it doesn't automatically go up and down. They put, an old school whale tail on there to lighten it up. Whereas the European one has all the other cool stuff that the American one doesn't, but it has a power rear spoiler. I always thought that was kind of odd because that does add a little bit of weight and a little complexity. There's those seats you were talking about. Pretty amazing. Yeah, so here we go. Sorry, guys, we're getting a weird... Continue recording. Looks like I lost my partner. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to call this episode. I don't know what Michael Deeb would have said. Let's see if I can get him on text. Stand by, guys. All right, so I just got a text from Michael. He says his bid is $220,000. I'm gonna say, I want this car to go for $300,000, but I think he's probably right. So I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go $230,000. I think the market is a little soft and people are getting a little scared. And you're talking about crossing a border. I'll just real quickly go to one of the last car on our list. We won't talk about it much. The last car on the list was a 12,000-mile 2006 Ferrari F430 6-speed. And this car, look at that. We'll just show it real quick. We'll go through some of the pictures. Here we go, guys. The 430 was the last Ferrari that was available with an actual manual transmission. And this one looks like it's in Corsa Red. The 430s were one of the first generations that were very easy to maintain, unlike the earlier Ferraris that were very hard to own. Boy, this car, slick top, 6-speed, black dash with the tan interior. Whew. She is purty. So let's see if we can get a text from Michael Deeb and see what his bid on this car is. Let's see here. I'm going to ask him what his bid. What's your bid on the Ferrari? So we're just going to wait for him for a second on that. And drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. Okay, so right now it's, let's see here. Sorry, guys. We've got about almost 5 hours till this auction cuts to the end. It's got at $143,000 right now. Michael Deeb's bid is $188,000, which is surprising to me. I mean, 430s usually don't go anywhere near that, but I think it's all because of the 6-speed manual. I'm going to go a little under that and say 175, because I think this is an amazing car, but I think it might peter out. I don't know. I mean, if you've got a bunch of money, this definitely seems like the Ferrari to get because it's got a manual and it's the last one. But that's it, guys. So this is Cars in Bids. Bring a trailer. We are the Bid Nerds. This website or this channel is Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnick. You can see us every day at 9 o'clock weekdays, where we'll give you our top 5 picks on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. And you can go ahead and find us on Instagram. You can find us on the YouTube machine. And, of course, there we are on Facebook. If you're watching us live, you're probably watching us on Facebook or YouTube right now. Stick around. We'll probably come back a little later and maybe watch one of these auctions live this afternoon. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, share this stuff. Let everybody know we're doing this. We're having a lot of fun with you guys hanging out. We look forward to your questions. And if there's a car you want us to talk about on a future episode of Bid Nerds, let us know and we'll get it done. All right. This has been another episode of Bid Nerds. We'll see you guys